This story portrays the love between a stepbrother and stepsister who first met at an orphanage and were later adopted by new parents. In this story, we will see how these two step-siblings fall in love and how their journey unfolds. The story begins with an 8-year-old girl named Nika who is traveling with her family in a car. Suddenly, she sees a wolf which scares her. Her mother reassures her, saying that not all wolves are dangerous, and we only know them as dangerous from stories. Suddenly, Nika's father becomes distracted by the sight of the wolf, leading to a dangerous car accident, and Nika's parents tragically die. Nika is now left completely alone. In the next scene, she is taken to an orphanage, where her life changes completely. The caretaker of the orphanage, Mrs. Margaret, is a strict woman. On her first day there, Nika is ordered to take off the locket around her neck, which is then taken from her by a boy. Nika starts living at the orphanage, where she befriends a girl named Itleen. However, nobody likes Itleen because she looks sickly. As time passes, Nika and Itleen grow closer. The day finally arrives when Nika is about to be adopted. She bids farewell to Itleen and leaves, reminiscing about her time there. Nika then meets her new parents, and Mrs. Margaret warns her to behave well with them, or she will be sent back to the orphanage. Nika's new parents will decide after a few days whether to keep her or not. As they leave the orphanage, Nika notices a boy named Rizal who is playing the piano. Rizal is the most talented boy at the orphanage, but Nika doesn't like him, because Rizal had taken the locket from Nika's mother's neck, but here Nika's parents Nova and Irvin had adopted Rizal as well. However, Nika didn't want to live with Rizal. Now, Nika goes home with her family, where a piano was placed that belonged to Nova and Irvin's son, who is no longer in this world. After that, Nova and Irvin show Nika and Rizal their room and also give them their school uniforms. Suddenly, Rizal starts to feel a headache, and he takes medicine, hiding it in a box. Nika then enters Rizal's room and asks him not to cause any trouble, as she wants her parents to see them as good and allow them to stay there. Nika had always dreamed of having a family where she could live happily. Rizal tells Nika that if she wants everything to be fine, she should stay away from him. After that, Rizal locks his room door. Later, everyone sits down to eat, and Nova starts asking Nika about her and Rizal. Nika lies, saying that they have been like brother and sister since childhood. Hearing this, Rizal touches Nika in a strange way. This makes Nika uncomfortable, and she gets up to leave. Rizal follows her and tells her that she shouldn't have walked away like that. Nika responds by saying, "Don't come near me, you are a monster," indicating how much she feared Rizal. After this, Nika goes to her room to sleep. That night, Nika dreams that Rizal's health deteriorates, and Margaret is by his side, and she wakes up startled from this bad dream. The next day, Nika and Rizal go to school together, and all the girls start looking at Rizal and flirting with him, but Rizal ignores them. Then, Nika meets Billy. Nika becomes friends with Rizal, and Rizal introduces her to her friend Vicky. Soon after, their class starts, and while Nika is taking an exam, she hears that Rizal is beating up a boy outside. The reason? The boy had made inappropriate comments about Nika. Later that night, Nika goes to Rizal's room. She asks him, "Weren't you liked by the orphanage staff? Why did you refuse to be adopted and come here instead?" As she says this, she starts applying ice to Rizal's injuries. Rizal warns her, "Stay away from me, or I won't be able to control myself." The next morning, Nika's mother, Nova, gives her some clothes to deliver to Rizal's room. When Nika reaches Rizal's room, she notices his medicines, but Rizal arrives just then. He moves closer to Nika and asks, "Am I not a good person? Then why are you here?" Later at school, Nika talks to a boy named Leo. Rizal sees this and threatens Leo to stay away from Nika. After school, Nika goes shopping with her family. Nova asks her to try on a dress, but as Nika changes, she recalls her traumatic childhood. She remembers being punished by Miss Margaret, who used to lock her in a dark room as punishment. In the darkness, the only comfort she found was the hand of a boy named Itleen. The experiences in the orphanage deeply scarred Nika, leaving her broken and filled with fear. One day, Nova tells Nika that it's Rose Day. At school, Billy finds many roses in her locker, but Nika discovers only a single black rose in hers. Billy says, "Whoever gave you this rose must love you a lot." Nika immediately realizes who it's from and heads to Rizal's room. In his room, Nika asks Rizal why he gave her the rose. Hearing this, Rizal pushes Nika onto the bed and is about to kiss her when the doorbell rings. Outside, it's Leo, who invites Nika to go out with him. Rizal watches them leave together. Nika and Leo go to an ice cream parlor and talk. On their way back, it starts raining, and Leo tries to get closer to Nika. Meanwhile, Rizal, struggling with a severe headache, watches Nika from a distance. However, However, Nika refuses Leo's advances and returns home. Here, Rizal is playing the piano at home, and Nika starts to feel attracted to him when she sees him. Rizal also begins to think that maybe Nika likes him. Nika thinks that Rizal isn't as bad as he looks. He has some good qualities too. Rizal is having a headache, but Nika goes to him. Rizal gets angry at her and says, "Stay away from me, I hate you." Nika wants to understand why he is behaving this way. Then, when Nika checks her phone, she sees a video from Leo, where Rizal is hitting Leo. Later, when Rizal comes home, he is injured, and seeing this, Nika asks him why he hit Leo and what he really wants. At that moment, Rizal starts feeling unwell, falls down, and gets a high fever. Meanwhile, their parents are stuck in traffic. Nika takes Rizal to his room, starts taking off his wet clothes, and calls Nova for medicine. She then gives him the medicine. Rizal holds her hand and says, "Don't leave me." Nika, despite wanting to stop herself, can't, and they end up being intimate. Nika accepts him as well. Later, it is shown that when Margaret had asked Rizal to take Nika's locket, Rizal kept it for himself. Then one day when Margaret was about to punish Nika, Rizal cut his own hand to save her. Nika's friend Adeline knew that Rizal had kept Nika's locket safe, and Rizal had loved Nika since childhood, but didn't want to reveal his truth, so he had asked Adeline to keep quiet. The next day, Nika and Rizal are seen sleeping together, but their parents come home, and Nika quickly moves away. However, Rizal doesn't want to be apart from her. Nika goes to her room and starts thinking about everything. The next day, both of them act normal but don't speak to each other. Nika starts staying with her friends Mickey and Willie. One day, she visits Mickey's house and finds out that Mickey is a lesbian, as Mickey likes Willie. One day, Nika meets Leo, who tells her that he loves her, but Nika rejects him and starts leaving. Just then, Nika drops something, and it breaks. It was a birthday gift she had bought for Rizal. Later, she comes home, where her parents' friends are visiting, and a girl named Aaliyah doesn't speak kindly to Nika. It is Nika's birthday, and Nova had invited Adeline as well. They all celebrate Rizal's birthday, and later, the parents reveal that they want to adopt Nika and Rizal completely. At this point, Aaliyah gets angry because she loved Nova and Norman's late son dearly. Aaliyah's words dampen everyone's mood. Following this, we see Adeline and Nika. Adeline explains that all the children at the ashram want to file a case against Margaret and need Nika's help for it, as Margaret had troubled Nika the most. However, Nika refuses, saying she can no longer face Margaret. Afterward, Adeline meets Rizal and tells him, "Why don't you tell Nika the truth, that you're here for her?" But Rizal doesn't want to reveal the truth to Nika. Later that night, Nika sees Rizal playing the piano. She approaches him and says, "Today is your birthday. I didn't give you a gift, but you can ask me for whatever you want." Hearing this, Rizal comes closer to Nika, but Leo arrives at that moment. Nika goes to Leo, and he confesses, "I love you. I can't see you with Rizal because you two are going to be siblings soon." But Nika doesn't agree with Leo and goes back to Rizal. Here, Rizal tells her, "I'm not right for you. You'll find someone much better than me. All I've ever done is give you pain." But Nika replies that she doesn't want to leave him. Now, even Nika has started to like Rizal. The next day, Nika tells Nova about a party at her school and leaves with her friends. Later, Nova asks Rizal why he didn't attend the party, but Rizal says something and leaves. At the party, Leo also arrives and apologizes to Nika. The two begin dancing. While dancing, Nika says she feels dizzy. Leo takes her to a room. Meanwhile, Rizal decides to leave the house, but changes his mind and comes back. In the room, Leo tries to force himself on Nika, but Rizal arrives just in time and saves her. He starts beating up Leo. Leo somehow manages to escape. Nika finally confesses her love to Rizal, and the two engage in a playful wrestling match. Later, as they are heading home, Leo arrives with a gun, intending to harm them. To escape Leo, they jump into a river. Underwater, Rizal grabs Nika's hand, and in that moment, Nika realizes that Rizal was the one who used to hold her hand in the dark room after every punishment to comfort her. When Nika regains consciousness, she finds herself in a hospital room with Adeline. She asks Adeline if it was Rizal who used to hold her hand. Adeline reveals the truth, and just then, Nika's parents arrive. Nika asks them about Rizal and learns that he is in a coma. Nika expresses her desire to meet Rizal, but Nova informs her that Margaret is with Rizal and doesn't let anyone see him. Nova also reveals that Rizal refused to be adopted. She hands Nika a book from Rizal, which he had left for her. Upon opening the book, Nika bursts into tears as she finds the locket that Rizal had kept safe all these years. Determined, Nika tries to meet Rizal, but Margaret denies her access and blames Nika for Rizal's condition. Days pass, and Nika gathers the courage to file a case against Margaret. However, the children who could testify against Margaret are too scared and change their statements. Feeling hopeless, Nika believes she might lose the case. Margaret's lawyer bombards her with difficult questions, causing her to run out of the courtroom. Nova comforts her and gives her strength to continue. Nika returns to court and and boldly declares that Margaret tortured the children and Rizzle. Her testimony leads to Margaret being proven guilty, and she is arrested. Nika rushes to Rizzle's hospital room, holds his hand, and tearfully confesses her love for him. Miraculously, Rizzle regains consciousness. The scene shifts to a happy future where Rizzle and Nika are seen with their child, living a joyous life together. The story ends on this heartwarming note.